Emily Walker had always loved the feeling that came after finishing a long event, the moment when the music faded. The lights dimmed and the crowd slowly disappeared. But tonight, as she stepped out of the downtown Seattle hotel ballroom with her camera bag on her shoulder, she felt a strange heaviness in her chest. It was one of those feelings that came without warning, like a quiet reminder that life wasn't going the way she imagined. She had worked all week, barely slept, and even though she was surrounded by hundreds of people during the event, she still felt alone the moment she stepped into the cold November night. The air was sharp enough to sting her cheeks. She pulled her jacket closer, trying to warm her hands, wishing she could simply teleport home. Her car was parked 2 blocks away, and normally the walk didn't bother her. But tonight, something weighed her down, a mix of exhaustion and an unexplained sadness that tightened her throat. She was about to take her first step away from the entrance when she heard someone behind her. "Emily, are you okay?" She turned and saw Ryan Brooks, the event's lighting designer. He was the kind of man who seemed to live in his own calm. Gentle voice, soft smile, the type who always helped with cables even when it wasn't his job. Tonight, he looked at her with a worried expression, his hands still holding a coil of lights he had been packing. For a moment, she tried to hide her tiredness, but her voice betrayed her. "Yeah, just long day." Ryan stepped closer, not invading her space, but making sure she knew he was there. "You looked overwhelmed in there. I didn't want to interrupt, but I noticed." Before she could respond, another voice came from the side. "There you are. I've been looking for you." It was Daniel Reed, the lead musician who performed at the event. He had an easy smile, the kind that made people feel comfortable instantly. His voice carried warmth, and even after hours of singing, he still sounded full of life. His dark jacket was half-zipped, and his hair was a little messy in a charming, effortless way. Emily blinked, surprised to see him too. "Looking for me?" Daniel nodded. "You rushed out pretty fast. Didn't even take a break. Thought I'd check if everything's all right." Before she could gather her thoughts, a third voice joined. "You leaving already?" That was Liam Carter, the hotel manager, tall, composed, with a quiet confidence that made people trust him instantly. He had spent the entire evening making sure guests were comfortable, adjusting schedules, and handling problems before anyone noticed. Now, with the event over, he finally looked relaxed even, though his eyes stayed sharp. Watching her carefully, Emily felt a sudden, unexpected warmth in her chest. 3 men, all noticing her at the same time, all genuinely concerned. She wasn't used to that. "I'm fine," she said, though it sounded less convincing than she hoped. Ryan glanced at the street. "If you need to walk for a bit, I can go with you. Helps clear the mind." Daniel shook his head lightly. "Or join us downstairs. Some of the crew is having coffee. It's nothing fancy, but it's warm, and you deserve a break." Liam stepped forward just enough to show he meant what he said. "If you're heading to your car, I can walk you. Gets pretty empty around this time. 3 different options. 3 different types of comfort." Emily felt the air shift around her, as if each man brought his own kind of energy. Ryan's kindness, Daniel's warmth, Liam's protective calm. For a few seconds, she didn't know what to say. She wasn't expecting company. She wasn't expecting attention at all. Most nights she worked silently and left silently, blending in with the equipment cases and backstage chaos. But now, all 3 of them were looking at her like she mattered not as a photographer, but as a person. She started, then stopped because she didn't know what choice to make. She didn't want to offend anyone. She didn't want to choose wrong. And most of all, she didn't want to admit she didn't want to go home to an empty apartment tonight. She looked at their faces, 3 men who somehow made the night feel less cold, after a slow breath. She smiled in a small, hesitant way. "Maybe we all walk for a bit." All 3 men exchanged quick glances, surprised but not confused. It was as if none of them expected her to say that, but all of them were secretly relieved she did. Each nodded, almost at the same time. Ryan handed his equipment to another crew member and walked beside her. Daniel slipped his hands into his pockets and stepped ahead, humming as he always did when he relaxed. Liam stayed a step behind the group, as if making sure she felt safe from every direction. They walked down the quiet Seattle street, the city lights reflecting off the wet pavement from an earlier drizzle. Cars were scarce. Air smelled faintly of pine and cold rain. Emily felt the tension in her shoulders slowly melting, just from having them beside her. Ryan was the first to speak. "You know the clouds cleared? You can actually see some stars." Emily looked up. He was right. The sky wasn't fully clear, but a few faint stars peeked through, scattered like tiny promises in the darkness. She never noticed them before tonight. Daniel turned around, walking backward for a few steps. "You've been working too hard. Didn't even stop to eat." "I never do during events," she admitted. "Yeah, I noticed," Daniel said with a gentle smile. "You run around more than all of us combined." Liam spoke from behind her. "She also handles pressure better than everyone here." Emily laughed softly. "I don't know about that." But hearing them say it made her chest warm. Appreciation wasn't something she got often. She worked hard, kept her head down, and delivered results. But most of the time, no one saw the effort behind the lens. Tonight felt different. They walked past a bakery that had closed hours ago. The scent of leftover pastries still lingered in the air. The neon sign flickered, casting soft pink light on the sidewalk. Daniel slowed down, taking in the color. "This is my favorite time of night," he said, "when the city is half asleep. Feels like you can breathe." Emily nodded. She understood exactly what he meant. She always struggled to breathe during the day. Too many people, too many tasks, too many expectations. But now, surrounded by 3 people who didn't expect anything from her, she felt lighter. Ryan pointed at a small park up ahead. "Let's sit for a minute." The park was empty, the benches slightly damp from the earlier drizzle, the trees bare from winter. The soft glow of a street lamp painted a silver halo on the ground. Daniel sat first, wiping the bench lightly with his sleeve and patting the empty space next to him. Emily hesitated, then sat. Ryan took the other side. Liam stayed standing, leaning against the lamppost like a silent guardian. They didn't talk about deep things at first. Instead, they laughed about small moments from the event: the toddler who refused to leave the stage, the guest who tried to give Daniel song requests he didn't know, the older couple who danced so long their feet probably hurt. Emily found herself laughing in a way she hadn't in months. Fast, easy, genuine. She felt something open inside her, something she didn't even realize had been closed. After a long moment, Daniel stretched and looked at her with gentle eyes. "You know what? Tonight was supposed to be nothing special, but somehow it's turning into something I'll remember." Ryan nodded. "Same here." Liam added quietly, "Sometimes the best nights are the ones you've never planned." Emily lowered her eyes, touched in a way she didn't expect. She didn't know why these 3 men cared so much tonight, but she felt grateful. More than that, she felt seen. As they walked her back toward the hotel, the cold air returning, she whispered, "Thank you. I don't know what I did to deserve this, but thank you." Ryan smiled softly. "You deserve more kindness than you think." Daniel spoke with warmth. "Good people attract good moments." Liam finished, "And sometimes good people attract the right company." Emily felt something shift inside her. Hope, maybe. Connection, or simply the realization that she didn't have to face every night alone. The night wasn't magical in any big, dramatic way. No kisses. No sudden confessions. No sparks flying in the air. Just 3 men, each different. Each caring, each pulling her gently out of her loneliness without even trying. She reached her car, turned back, and for the first time all day she felt her chest lift, her spirit steady, her heart full. This night, unexpected and unplanned, was becoming a story worth remembering. A story she never thought she would experience. A story she knew she would share someday with a smile. Emily didn't choose one of them. She didn't want to sit in a cafe with Daniel, or walk home with Liam, or stroll aimlessly with Ryan. Instead, she surprised herself by saying, "Maybe we just walk together." Her voice was quiet, almost hesitant, but it carried a sense of sudden courage. All three men looked at her in surprise, but the surprise quickly turned into a small smile on each face. It was as if the night itself had paused, waiting for her choice. She didn't feel pressure, only the gentle pull of possibility. Ryan adjusted the strap of his bag and offered, "Sure, if that's what you want." He fell into step beside her, easy and calm, like he'd been expecting her to make this choice all along. Daniel moved a little ahead, hands in pockets, eyes scanning the city with a relaxed curiosity that made Emily smile quietly. Liam stayed behind just a few steps, but his presence was firm, quiet, steady, like an anchor she didn't know she needed. The streets of Seattle were quieter now, the late hour softening the city's usual hum. Neon lights from closed shops reflected in puddles, stretching thin and colorful across the asphalt. Emily noticed the smell of rain mixed with coffee and faint pine from a small planter nearby. It was familiar, comforting, the kind of detail she often missed when her mind raced at work. Tonight, she could actually notice it. She could breathe. Ryan was the first to speak. "I like this," he said. "Walking through the city when most people are gone. Feels like it's ours for a moment." His voice had that gentle calm that could make someone feel safe, and Emily felt her shoulders relax a little more. "You're quiet," he added softly. "Long day." "I guess," Emily admitted. "It's been a lot." She didn't explain what a lot meant. She didn't need to. Ryan understood anyway. That understanding, quiet and unforced, made her feel lighter. Daniel laughed softly, turning back for a brief moment. "No, Emily, I've seen you at these events for years, always moving, always working, always watching everything. I never see you stop. Tonight, you actually stopped. That's different." There was warmth in his tone, a mix of curiosity and admiration. Emily smiled at him, feeling that warmth reach her chest. She didn't know why it mattered, but it did. Liam's voice came from behind, calm and observant. "Sometimes stopping is the best part of the night," he said. "Not everything has to be done or fixed. Sometimes you just exist, and that's enough." His words were simple, but they carried weight. Emily looked at him, realizing that even his quiet presence made her feel a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. They reached a small park a few blocks away. The benches were slightly wet from the drizzle earlier, the trees bare, and the streetlights cast soft golden halos across the ground. Daniel immediately went to the bench near the lamppost and patted the space next to him. "Sit," he said with a grin, and Emily did, unsure why she felt safe taking that small invitation. Ryan sat beside her, careful not to crowd her, while Liam leaned against the lamppost, observing quietly. For a moment, no one spoke. The silence was comfortable, not awkward, filled with the faint sound of wind through the trees. Emily realized she could finally just sit without thinking about what needed to be done next. Without planning her schedule, without calculating the rest of her life, she could breathe. Daniel broke the silence first, his voice playful. "You know, this is funny. I thought tonight would end like every other night. It's busy, rushed, and forgotten by the end of it. But here we are, sitting in a park, laughing, breathing. And it feels right." Emily laughed softly. "I didn't expect this either," Ryan added. "Sometimes the best nights are the ones we don't plan. They surprise us when we least expect it." Liam nodded. "Exactly. And sometimes they remind us of something simple. We're not alone." Emily felt her chest tighten, but not in sadness. It was a good kind of feeling, mixture of warmth, gratitude, and a quiet excitement she hadn't felt in months. She realized that tonight wasn't about romance or drama. It wasn't about being noticed by someone she barely knew. It was about connection. It was about three people showing up when she didn't even expect anyone to care. Daniel leaned back on the bench, hands behind his head. "Tell me, Emily, When was the last time you laughed like this? Really laughed? Emily thought for a moment. She couldn't remember months, a year. She had been so wrapped up in work, deadlines, expectations that she hadn't allowed herself a simple, easy laugh. I don't know, she admitted. I forgot how much it feels like to just enjoy the moment. Ryan smiled at her. Then maybe tonight was meant to remind you, Liam added quietly, and maybe to remind us too. Good people sometimes forget they deserve kindness and attention. They sat in that quiet park, sharing stories of the evening, small jokes, and silly observations. Daniel mimicked a guest who had tried to ask for a song he didn't know, making Emily laugh until tears pricked at the corners of her eyes. Ryan recounted a moment when a light had gone out mid-event, and how he had tried to fix it without anyone noticing, making Emily giggle at his clumsy triumph. Liam shared a small story about a guest who had lost their way in the hotel and how he calmly guided them, showing patience and quiet strength. Emily listened, laughed, and felt herself relax fully for the first time in weeks. She didn't notice time passing, didn't care that the hour was late. She wasn't thinking about tomorrow or the emails waiting in her inbox. She was just there, with them. And that was enough. After a while, Daniel leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You know, Emily, there's something special about nights like this. Unexpected, unplanned, filled with simple moments that somehow feel unforgettable. Emily nodded, her hands clasped together. I think I needed this more than I realized. Ryan's gaze softened. Sometimes we don't even know what we need until someone shows up. Tonight, I think it's safe to say we all showed up. Liam finally moved closer, resting a hand lightly on the bench near Emily, careful not to crowd her. And sometimes, he said, we create memories without even trying. Nights that remind us that connection is what really matters, not perfection. Emily felt warmth spread through her chest. Connection, that was the word. She had been so wrapped up in her life that she had forgotten what it meant to truly connect. And tonight, these three men had reminded her. As the night deepened, a quiet wind rustled the leaves. Emily realized she didn't want this moment to end. She didn't want to go back to her empty apartment, to her routines, to the quiet loneliness she usually carried home. She wanted to stay here a little longer, feeling the comfort of three. People who didn't expect anything but simply wanted to be present with her. Daniel stood first, stretching. I guess eventually nights have to end, he said softly. But we can always remember them. Ryan got up as well. Exactly. Memories are the best kind of keepsake. Liam followed, leaning over slightly. And maybe we can create more nights like this. Nights worth sharing. Emily felt a flutter in her chest. Not romantic, not dramatic, just hope. She realized that connection, warmth, and understanding could feel just as powerful as any grand gesture. As they walked her back toward her car, Emily turned slightly to look at each of them. I don't know why you three stayed with me tonight, but it meant more than I can say. Ryan smiled softly. You deserved it. Daniel added warmly. We all deserved it. Liam concluded, and none of us wanted this night to end without you. Emily's chest tightened with gratitude. She realized this night was unlike any other. No romance, no drama, no fireworks, just something far more meaningful. Kind of night that reminds you life isn't only about deadlines, expectations, or routines. It's about people, connection, moments that touch your heart quietly but deeply. She reached her car, paused, and looked back at them one last time. They stood together under the dim city lights. Three different men with three different energies, all caring in their own way. Emily smiled softly, feeling a warmth she hadn't felt in a long time. This night, planned, unexpected, and simple, had become something extraordinary. Something she knew she would remember. Something she would carry with her for years, as she started her car and drove into the quiet streets. Emily whispered to herself, almost like a secret. This night wasn't just a night. It was a story, her story. And the story had a title she already knew she would give it. These three men turned my night into an amazing story to share. She smiled again, a little brighter this time, knowing that sometimes the best moments in life come when you least expect them. That sometimes connection matters more than anything else. That sometimes three kind hearts can turn an ordinary night into something unforgettable. The city lights blurred past her window, the faint sound of her favorite playlist drifting from the car speakers. Emily felt lighter, happier, and filled with a quiet joy that had nothing to do with romance, nothing to do with drama, nothing to do with expectations. It had everything to do with people, understanding, and the magic of a night shared with the right company. She knew she would never forget it. And she knew deep down that nights like this didn't happen often. But when they did, they could change everything.